Okay, so my name is Tiziana, and I come from Italy. I'm an Italian musician. I was raised in a family of a classical pianist and a multiple instrument and singer amateur. So I had holy and profane in my house, and I grew up with that. Learning the musical notes from a very young age, so going into a very structured uh, learning of music. But in the same time, thank God, I had a very nurturing experience. So I had what we call now in by type of approach, we call it informal guidance. So I had a very strong informal guidance of music, a very rich background, and then started with a formal instruction straight away when I was 5 into the Italian Conservatoire, which at that time was still based on the programs of 1920. So it was very strict, very old style, and that I hated. So if all the love that I had for music coming from the passion that my parents transmitted me, little by little through the years of the conservatoire got destroyed. My ability to create, my ability to improvise, my ability to trust my instinct was suppressed. Through many exams, many different reasons, I needed to be perfect because this is what the conservatoire wants, especially when you study piano conservatoire. You have such a strong background, such a strong history of what it is to be a great composer, what it is to be a great musician. All the most important musicians of the world have composed for piano. Everything started on piano and vocal, of course, but piano mostly. So yeah, so the background was scary, and that was very, like, for me, was a very judgmental upbringing. And so through the years, I really stopped improvising, stopped composing. I didn't even want to join like rock bands or this type of environments. I did try, but I was so scared of making mistakes or not playing nicely that I would simply stop myself from enjoying the situation. And I'm not a person that stops themselves when there is something fun. But in that case, it was just so overwhelming that I couldn't get over this fear. Luckily enough, I really liked to work with people. So when I was 17, I started teaching piano. And I had one mission in my head, which was I'm not going to recreate the same path that I had grown through to my students, for my students. So that was clear in my mind from the very first class that I still remember doing when I was exactly 17. And my first student now, she's an amazing singer. She's 26, 27. She's a singer. She's a vocal improviser. She does body music, body percussion, piano, all of that in Spain. She moved to Spain, so she's found her way. So at least I transmitted the right thing from the very beginning. But the whole point for me was to try to create a different path. So I studied how to teach piano to very young children, but I was not convinced. It was always happening through reading and writing. It was always happening through a book or through a method. And that was not convincing me. But in that course, I started studying child psychology. And they talked to me about music therapy. So immediately I went to music therapy when I was about 22, 23. I had students already with disabilities that wanted to come to my sessions. And so through music therapy, I met improvisation for the first time, again, as an adult, on the djembe or on a wood block. So it was a very simple improvisation, but I was getting in contact again with my own musicality, my own vision of music. And what would that meant in a context of creation with another person. So that was an amazing first experience. Through music therapy, then, of course, I met circo singing, because the music therapy school that I have attended in Padova, in Italy, is a very open music therapy school, they include a lot of different type of settings and practices. And it also has a very international view of what it is music therapy. So I had the chance to study body percussion, body music, circus singing, sound painting, lots of experiences that really opened my eyes and made me realize, oh my God, where is my music? And then there I met a person, which was another teacher, that studied Gordon's music learning theory. So Gordon's music learning theory, which is also known as MLT, music learning theory, it's a theory, but then it becomes also practice, of course. It's a theory that explains us how we learn music in a natural way. And MLT follows the principles of natural learning of language. So Edwin Gordon, which was a researcher at the University of Temple University in Philadelphia, started observing children, started observing how we naturally interact with music. And he realized that we do it through a cooperative way, in a musical dialogue, basically. That's how we develop our musicality. But he also realized that the steps behind music learning were the same steps behind that we have in language. The pyramid of learning is the same one, and then we will see this in more details. But I just wanted to explain to you why MLT is such a strong influence in my work. So yeah, basically through this amazing opportunity, through music learning theory, through music therapy, and then the whole world of vocal improvisation and body percussion, little by little, I restarted learning who I was musically. But it was not enough for me to break the barriers that the conservatoire had built in front of me. So that happened only through improv theater. So I really had to go through a process of, I really don't know anything of what I need to do. I don't know if you know a bit of what is improvisational theater or theater of improvisation. But basically, you enter on stage and you have no idea of what character you're going to play, what character your other friends are going to play. Potentially, you only know a few things about where the scene is based, when the scene is set. So you have no clue of what you're going to do and what you're going to say, and not even what you're going to feel. That probably is the most important thing. So the whole process of putting myself into such a, I would say, scary setting, because for me it was very scary at that point. I was just coming from a very structured way of doing art. So this type of making art for me was absolutely pushing me out of my comfort zone. But that was the biggest learning. So through music, so through improv theater, then I started improvising much more in music again. Or at least I gave myself the opportunity and the possibility of making mistake also in a musical setting, which is where really I had my traumas. And I didn't speak about traumas for about 37 years, 38 years of my life. Now I can say that I definitely had some traumas from that. There are worse traumas in life. We all know that, but everybody has their own pieces to rebuild. Anyway, so after this, what did I do? I moved to Spain for 1 year to do research in music education. And I got to do music in many different settings, from babies to elderly people with dementia, Parkinson, Alzheimer's, working with people with disabilities, so deaf people, autistic children. That was a great experience for me to understand how to get in contact with people through music, obviously. And then I moved from Spain to London because I wanted to finally experience a big metropolis in my life. And I've been there for 9 years. And the first year where I was there, I met Pedro Consorci. I don't know if you have heard of him. He's one of the 3 founders of Música do Círculo, which is this amazing practice and methodology now in Brazil, in São Paulo. And so I completely fell in love for Música do Círculo. For me, it was just, oh my God, what is all of this freedom that I can have? Why can I improvise? Why there is a structure that allows me to improvise at some point? I loved it. It was great. So I decided to jump into it 100%. But because I was also teaching and I was already training other teachers, my mind was very analytical. So everything that I was doing, I would also try to, you know, put into a method, understand what was happening. So and basically how to cross it with what I was already doing with my children. So this has been a development that happened in the last 10 years, I would say. Musica do Circolo I met around 10 years ago. MLT I met 11, 12, 13 years ago. Music therapy before. So it all have been a big research for me. How can I create my own approach? I don't just want to. So my method, actually, my goal was not to create my method or to create my approach. Actually, was really wanting to be away from that idea because I had very bad experiences with previous facilitators that tried to impose to me their view of doing things, and I couldn't go out of that. So after meeting 3 mentors like that, and I got very scared in life, I said, I either quit with music education or I just restart from scratch. So when I moved to London, I started working in restaurants again, forgetting about the research, forgetting about music education. And then I met Pedro. And then I was like, okay, so life is bringing me back to that. I can't say no now. And then yes, through the years, because I was training our teachers, eventually I developed my own approach. But my own approach is based on other things. Okay. So it's not coming from my own inspiration and my own genius. It's just the way in which I put together things that is really working now. And that apparently is still something that is not really so common in music education. And that's why it feels innovative. But it is just because I'm putting together the best things that I met in my life, really.